Hello, and welcome to What We're Watching. It's Katherine.
And Liz.
And Ed.
And John.
So we're going to talk about Dune. Dune 2 is out, everybody, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, you didn't see it though, right?
Okay, why? You got to call me out like immediately.
Well, because, let's set expectations. The three of us have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
3 out of 4, that's pretty good.
Right. It had its worldwide premiere, I think, last month, and then the U.S. premiere March 1st. So it's out now, doing great numbers.
Now.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, my husband did go see it. Did he see it with you, John? Who did he see it with?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, okay. I was sort of paying attention, but not really. I think the funniest part of that is, the popcorn thing.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
that weird, and the only reason I even know about the popcorn container is because Saturday Night Live did that very funny sketch about it. So Eric went with John to see the movie, and he sends a picture of just the popcorn thing in his lap. Which is a very weird popcorn thing because it is supposed to look like the sand snake, right?
Oh my God. No, we have to stop right there. Sandworm. Okay,
all right. So I'm the non-expert in the room.
Yes.
So pitch me on it. Why should I go see Dune 2? I did see Dune 1.
Well, first of all, the popcorn, the Dune popcorn bucket.
Yeah. Special ed
went
bucket.
viral, and Saturday Night Live even did a full sketch on it because it definitely has some sexual connotations to it, but the top of it is basically an opened mouth of the sandworm, and you have to stick your hand through sort of like the tentacles of the sandworm's mouth.
There isn't a scene in either of these two movies where anyone's doing like a Geppetto, Pinocchio thing and going into a sandworm and then coming out afterwards. No, it's a one-way trip, I think. And this popcorn bucket feels like what are you doing to me? My hand keeps getting eaten every time.
Yeah, those worms will eat anything. Yeah. So, yes, Dune 1 came out in 2021. It was a Warner Brothers production through Legendary Pictures. And that was during COVID. And
right. Yeah.
So it was basically straight to streaming, really.
Which explains
I think
why
it was in the
I saw
theaters, but it was available on HBO Max. And that is why the director had fears that because Dune 2 was a caveat was that Dune 1 did well enough. And now you weren't going to have that box office because of HBO Max or HBO.
You know, it's weird. I don't disagree with you that that's been like the story that I've read about, but I just watched an interview with Denis where he said almost finished shooting or post-production for Dune 1, Warner Brothers was reaching out to us and letting us know that there's going to be a Dune 2. We don't care what's happening in the box office. We love this, and we're making a Dune 2 regardless of how it is received because gorgeous. That's what we want that for our records.
Well, yeah, because to be able to pull off this film in literally a 3-year span, when it is this big of an epic with this many celebrities to tie down their schedules,
right,
I cannot imagine the undertaking. So, Dune 2. So you did see Dune 1.
I did see Dune 1.
At home?
It was streaming, yeah.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And that was sort of world building, introducing us to the characters, the houses, the worlds, and the conflict through the lens of the director, which was truly like cinematic beauty. The sand, like Lawrence of Arabia practically. It was just so gorgeous.
So, Ed, you said his name, Denis. What's his name? It's Denis.
Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve. So he's the director of both Part 1 and Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And co-writer.
Oh, and co-writer. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I would think you would know him because, he is a well-known director. John, do you want to talk about any of the other films he's done?
I did last week because he directed Arrival.
Oh, right. That's right. He came up last week because of Arrival.
Catherine, did you forget? Okay, anyway,
yeah, probably.
Also directed Sicario, another one of your favorites, Catherine.
Okay, I have not actually seen Sicario, but
totally fantastic, even though it's about drug war and violence. Whatever.
One of my favorites, Blade Runner 2049.
Oh.
Correct, with Dave Bautista again.
Yeah. A lot of atmospheric elements he likes to, the tone, the layers, the colors. So Dune 2 picks up where Dune 1 left off.
Yeah, because I do remember Dune 1 being very set-up-y.
Yes. And the main character, Paul Atreides, is the heir apparent to the Atreides family. Those of you who don't know about Dune, it's based off Frank Herbert's book from 1965, I think, which was something like 900 pages long. Our brother James for sure read it. Did anybody else read it?
I did read the first one.
Oh, is that the 900-page book?
I don't know.
Oh my God. Okay.
I do know that one of the reasons why I haven't cracked open this sci-fi novel set is they are large and there are many. And
Oh, yeah.
between the very first movie from the 80s, it like hit all of the books. And you're like, well, that's the whole story? Okay. Or not all the books, but it hit more than this first movie did. So part of it is it's kind of too big of a story for me to crack open.
Got it.
Well, and that's why we have 2 films, and there better be a third one, because the movie that we grew up with, the adaptation David Lynch's film,
Right.
they consolidated it, man. I mean, they got everything in. Now, not knowing the book, you think that that's what they could have done with the current films, and they do not tie it all up in a bow. So you're like, wait, where's this character? What happened with this? And why isn't this happening? So I would say, don't use the 1980s film as a reference point per se, because they don't respect it in really any way, shape, or form.
It's definitely, you hit the nail on the head with a Lawrence of Arabia, gorgeous vistas and view of a desert. So you really feel like you're in the desert versus the 80s movies, which was like an 80s Game of Thrones. It's more about the families and the fights than where you were at.
This is a bit of a soap opera. You have families battling for territory and the control of the spice, which is on Arrakis, this planet. It's the most valuable substance in the, cosmos.
Do we know what spice is? Is spice like a drug?
Well, it's kind of like can have an LSD effect. It can give you, hypnotic, I guess, effect to you. But it also, the main reason why it's so valuable is it helps with interstellar travel.
Oh, well, that makes
It's
sense.
not possible without it. So,
Oh, well.
Now, there are moments you're like, but then how'd they figure that out? Like, I mean, they're just like, what? So what happens is the House of Atreides in the first movie basically gets an order from the Empire to move to this planet, Arrakis, which is like going from the most beautiful, lush forest water to the driest Sahara.
So,
Congratulations, you've been promoted to the desert.
Yeah.
so Arrakis is the sand planet with
Yes.
the sandworms
And the spice, yeah.
and the spice. Okay.
But, if you're able to make
And
it
the Fremen.
right, and the Fremen, which is it's also about a story of native people being pushed out of their lands. And
Like an indigenous
Classic
allegory.
colonizer allegory of we're the empire, we're in charge of everything, we know the best, and we're also horrendously gross and going to take advantage of everyone.
But when this
Yeah.
family gets assigned to move there, they're going to have a different approach from
Wait,
the
is this, so sorry, just to interrupt
Did you
for a sec.
watch the first one?
But yes, but it was so long ago.
Remember, so the
Oh, okay, sure.
Wait,
Wait, hold on. Before we even do Harkonians. So Paul, this is Timothée Chalamet's character.
Yes.
And he is the heir to
the Atreides family.
The Atreides family. And in the first movie, his dad died. Is that... so that was Oscar Isaac, right?
Yes, because when they're
See,
sent-
I remember something.
Yeah. So when the Atreides family is sent to the planet of Arrakis is only because the previous occupants running the spice,
Harvesting?
harvesting, the Harkonians, who are very evil, wear a lot of black, seem to be very pale and white, they get basically an order to leave the planet. They are
so
not
that's the
happy about it.
family-
Yeah.
The families against each other. So
Right.
that's... Okay, I think I got it now.
They're not happy about it. So really part one of the movies is about them coming back and slaughtering the Atreides family.
Oh, geez.
And they are determined to kill all Atreides, wipe out the bloodline, destroy the family. But Paul and his mother survive into the desert and have to go find the indigenous people, the Fremen, to basically survive. And Paul, because he is the product of a witch, and usually, yes, what are you saying, a witch?
I mean, she's Ben Gesserit.
Which is a witch.
Says you.
If they said it numerous times in
It's
the movie.
derogatory, Liz. Come on.
Okay.
They're referring to their religiousness versus the spice sciences as witchcraft. You're not into the stuff that we're into. We're into machines. You're into like thinking.
Well,
Okay, so that's like... It's like a religious order And just to clarify for my own memory, it's Rebecca Ferguson is playing Paul's mother. So
Correct.
Timothée Chalamet's mother. She is phenomenal. I do love her.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So they escaped. I do remember that. And they
By
made it
using her witchy, wilding ways of
the
her
controlling
voice.
thing,
Yes, John.
Right?
Her voice.
And isn't
Get
it
me
usually
snacks.
women? What was that?
Get me snacks.
Isn't it usually women?
Yes.
So it's very unusual that Timothée Chalamet's character Paul has any kind of abilities, right?
Well,
Okay, all right.
that
so,
was the manipulation that the mother did to be able to have a son. Because there's a prophecy that you need a male to fulfill that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so is that something that's much more present in Dune 2 as a storyline?
No, you just forgot.
Okay, just hush. All right.
Yeah, but no, John. In the first one, it's somewhat about the survival. And the second one, it is her manipulating the Fremen people and building up the lore of the potential of this prophecy that will be her son, that will come save and unite the people.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's one of the weird things that they get into is, which has been mentioned throughout, is that, they've been working towards this possible person who could do these things for a long time. Many bloodlines, many different possibilities. Paul is just one of them. But then on the other hand, so they're both manipulating that in one way, and then they're also manipulating people to believe in it. So it's a weird, well, is it happening because they believe in it, or are they only believing in it because they're being manipulated? So that's interesting.
I do love that idea that a prophecy only works because people believe in the prophecy, that it's like self-fulfilling, that, okay, but one last question.
Yeah.
So Zendaya, is she Fremen? Is that, okay,
Yes.
so she is the indigenous
And she does
Fremen
not
people.
believe in the prophecy, and she feels that is used in a way to control and manipulate her people.
She's probably right.
Then you have the counterpoint to her, which is greatly played by Javier Bardem.
Oh, nice.
And he is the one that sees the proof in everything that Paul does. Ah, he did it again. Oh,
He's
yes.
a great believer. I mean, he believed in a
Absolutely.
singing crocodile. He believes in Paul Atreides.
Oh, jeez. So, yeah, he was delightful in the second one, sort of, because he was the true believer. Because once he believed in Paul being what is the name Muad'Dib? Is that what it is?
I think Muad'Dib is
Muad'Dib.
That's his Fremen name, his war name, which means it's like the sand mouse thing, which obviously was very wise. But what we're forgetting is the actual kind of prophetical name, which
The
is
Messiah name.
Lisan al-Ghaib.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's
okay.
the name that,
Is Paul whatever this? It's
the Messiah who's going to come save them.
Say it again.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Lisan al-Ghaib?
Lisan al-Ghaib.
You got to decide for yourself, Catherine.
All right.
So they are saved and embraced by the Fremen people, and Paul Atreides decides he really wants to learn their ways, become a warrior with them, and battle, because now the Harkonnens are back running the spice fields and are more merciless than ever. They want to wipe off any other population on the planet that's not Harkonian. So they used to allow the Fremen just to be out in the desert to the north and the south is supposedly rumored to be inhospitable, so they couldn't even be there necessarily. But now there's
something like 1,000-mile long sandstorms that last 3 months. You're like, so inhospitable. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds
not a good
like-
vacation spot.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
got it.
sounds bad. Sounds real bad.
The Fremen have adapted to all that, but the Harkonians want to wipe them off the face of the planet regardless.
Okay, so
And they also think at this point, they think both Paul and his mother did die in a sandstorm
oh,
in
that's
book
convenient.
one.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So who are the Harkonians?
The main house of Harkonian, or he's run by him, is the Baron.
Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh, is that what he sounds like?
Super gross and flying fat guy suit. Stellan Skarsgård. Amazing. I didn't do a good accent, but
I do remember that character from the 80s version.
yeah, and that
Yeah, okay.
he was so much grosser in the 80s. Woo!
Yeah,
Well,
super gross in the
yeah.
80s. Okay, I'm going to make an 80s parallel that I'm pulling out of thin air, and I could be completely wrong. So the Sting character in the 80s,
Yeah.
is that now
Another musical.
our Elvis guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Austin Butler.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay.
Now-
wow. I pulled that together.
I will say, my husband did not click who that was because he has transformed himself in this, dropped 90% of the Elvis voice.
Yeah, he actually was intending to feel like a little Skarsgårdy, and he kind of pulls it off.
That's his uncle. So he's trying to have the same quality of sound, not an Elvis sound.
There's two nephews, both diabolical, but in different ways. And the first one we met, Dave Bautista's character, and he's basically running the spice, harvesting but he's not doing well with trying to control the Fremen. And so that is why Austin Butler's gets sent in to overtake his cousin. Make him literally kiss his feet. And he is a psychopath, Austin Butler. I mean, when they really try to show you who he is, which is in a huge arena, a battle for his, he's able to almost like a gladiator go out and kill 3 people. But, there's, by the way, spoiler alerts throughout all this. So just,
just go watch the 80s version. It's all the same story.
It really isn't. That's what's so shocking. There really isn't. He's so expanded the world. I mean, this movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes. So it's long. The way they did the color scheme for the battles of the planet where the Harkonians are native to, it was all black, white, and gray. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, actually, again, I saw a little snippet of an interview or something about that the intent was these characters, which are super pale and weird looking, and they're doing stuff different than everybody else who's like, oh, desert planet, forest planet. Apparently they have whatever it would be to be a black sun. That the light that it puts out is essentially monotone. So everyone's in black and white if they're in exposed sunlight. And this gladiator thing is like all exposed sunlight. But the way he did that wasn't to just make it black and white. The majority of those shots are shot in infrared. Usually getting kind of blurry infrared and animals running by in the forest. This is really full contrasty black and white, but it's meant to look odd, and your eyes are supposed to go, that looks like it's sun bleached and really, really bright, and I'm not into that. And everyone's a little squinty, but it was really visually compelling.
Yeah, it was incredible, and Austin Butler owns it. I mean, he just comes out. He is his character. You're like, oh boy. He had some great moments where he would not have a line, and he would just sort of react with a arched weird, because he had very protruding, I'm sure it was an aesthetic or a prosthetic, excuse me,
Both.
Extra cosmetic, because it was a very protruding
brow line.
Yeah. With no eyebrows, no hair whatsoever. And he would just sometimes the way he would react or semi-raise or, his eyes or smirk on his lips was really good.
Okay, good for him.
He was very enjoyable. He did a great job. Dave Bautista was so intense. And then, like I said, spoiler alert, Josh Brolin, you did not think he was going to be in this one, but he is back.
Unless, of course, you watched the original and knew that Patrick Stewart's character was coming back with his pug.
I don't know if anybody's watching the original. I mean, seriously.
I know, I feel like I should rewatch the
for sure
1980s version. Yeah.
I've watched the extended version of that with real slow animation that's unfinished. Yeah, I'll watch that.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, they did such a good job of what was CGI, actual effects. They filmed in Budapest and all these crazy locations in Saudi Arabia. So practical effects, and then all the movie magic. Very, very rarely were you ever that doesn't look legit. I mean,
yeah,
95% of the time, it read beautifully.
Wow.
I think the only thing that took me out was the casting of Christopher Walken, who I freaking adore, but he plays the Emperor. And, it's going to be revealed that he basically caused the death or the bloodline of the Atreides, because he lent his army to the Harkonians to help wipe them out. So he overplayed his hand. His daughter is played by Florence Pugh. She's great. She's a bit of a narrator. She provides some context of why they were thinking the way they were thinking. But Christopher Walken, I
thought I heard, maybe from Eric, somebody said that even though it's Christopher Walken, he's less Christopher Walken-esque than he normally is.
That's how Eric and I felt. He did not take me out.
I just felt like it was one of those roles that we needed someone from Europe, someplace we as an American audience don't really have a lot of familiarity with them, and they could have had some fun with it. I did not view him as evil and diabolical, as controlling as that character needed to be to do what he had done and was wanting to continue to do. So, that was the only, otherwise, Charlotte Rampling as the main witch, Reverend Mother, was fantastic. And talk about being able to project with eyes and voice and body, because the costumes of the Reverend Mother is a long veil, like covering her face. So she did an amazing job. That is
the
another thing
costuming in this across the board looks incredible.
And kind of going back to what Eddie said, there were tones, hues, colors, palettes that they did for each particular persons on the planet. So the Harkonians were always in, and there's a very S&M vibe to them. And that goes back to, I rewatched the documentary Jodorowsky's Dune.
Alejandro Jodorowsky's?
Yes. And it's about him trying to...
The original attempt to make this movie, which is like, 3,000 page like production.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the lore of basically the production book he made that's this thick.
Oh,
And the artist that he brought in...
H.R. Geiger.
Yes. He drew art for this Dune book, and the producer on it, in order to try to get the deal, brought these books that were bound, beautiful photographs, art, a complete layout of scene by scene, camera angle, dialogue, everything, to all these studios to try to sell this movie. But the director, Alejandra, wanted to, he's like, it could be 10, it could be 20 hours. They're like, we'd like an hour and a half. They were like, what are you talking about? Because really Star Wars and that sort of trilogy world had not begun where you could capture an audience this way, okay?
Like that a studio would accept that it's not going to be just one movie and that the audience will be there with you.
I mean, we're so used to that now with, The Lord of the Rings,
All
Harry
of the Star
Potter,
Wars,
all
yeah.
the Star Wars. I mean, we're used to it now.
Back in the days, it was serialized as television and feature length as feature length, and that's the story.
Yeah, and particularly when you're talking about serialized television epic was not as prestigious, so you're not going to
No.
try and pitch it in that way.
So he took those books to all these various studios. There is no way that these studios did not keep that book, and they will show elements that he created. There was quite a few other artists. I'm not drawing on their names right now, but also very influential on this book. And you can see through time in Blade Runner, in Star Wars, Flash Gordon, in like tons of sci-fi where they have used and been inspired by this original movie that never got made. And there's elements of it, especially in the Harkonian household, that you're like, oh my gosh, that is still so impacted by especially Geiger.
Geiger, yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, there's an S&M awareness. I don't think you'd even have what is the Matrix, the vibe that we had without the seeds that were planted back in like the 70s of this project. So going back to the costumes, they're in black, very S&M, a lot of latex rubber. There is weird characters, there's a sexual undertone to those characters. And then, you have Lawrence of Arabia inspired the Fremen with long scarves blowing in the wind, earth tones, sand tones, beautiful. And then when you have the witches, they're very, oh gosh, John's going to kill me, sorry. The Bene Gesserit. Bene Gesserit. Just, they have these high, because they're so powerful, they need a lot of room on top of their heads. So I would just say that, it's the costumes, it's the soundtrack, which is Hans Zimmer, which is incredible. I always I don't scare anybody, but there's something of like kind of a native woman singing at certain points, and, ah! And my son and I went back and watched the first one again before I went to go see it in the movie theater. And I would just do that during the week throughout the house. And he's like, stop it, Mom, God. But there's also just the sounds throughout of the desert, these huge spaceships, the cranking of the sand being churned to harvest the spice, and the battles, and just then the quiet of the desert. Cinematography, beautifully done. For the first one, I don't really know if you need to be a sci-fi fan. The second one is a totally different pace and energy because it's a battle. It is a much faster pace, and they jump. There's jumps in it. We're like, how much time passed? And I thought we were going to be marking that, another spoiler alert, but Paul's mother, Lady Jessica, now the Reverend Mother, because she drank the water of life.
Oh.
While she was pregnant.
What have we done?
Oh.
So the baby is like fully like aware or conscious now in the womb.
It is not just like she's feeling baby kicks. The baby's like doing sign language on the inside of the stomach. It's like, actually, if you could have some more carrots, that would be my preference.
I don't think there's carrots in the desert. Yeah.
Just I mean, like the communication from like womb to mother is like, also my baby would like some more carrots.
And what's crazy is that going all the way back to the 1980s film, that child, I don't know, was like a 5-year-old.
I remember that part of the movie.
That
too,
does not happen in this one.
Not yet.
Although there's a foreshadowing, and I'm not going to spoil that, we see the actress that plays her. And that's the other thing. It's like the 1985 one kind of wraps it up in a bow where you feel like, okay, Paul Atreides and the House of Atreides, and like it's all good. And also the planet Arrakis is maybe going to revert back to the planet Dune and what it was originally supposed to be, which is more of a wet planet, which I was like, God, I mean, if you're a totally dry planet, all of a sudden to be dumped all this water on you, and that's the 1980s film. I mean, you're not prepared for that.
No, you have not designed a
There's
lifestyle
no
for that.
infrastructure. There's no lifestyle. I was like, that's great, but it's like torrential rains. Like, where is that going? Like, so it's just, that does not happen in this one, and that's why I'm hoping there's a third. Do you guys think there's going to be a third, or?
They're already going to do a third. I just don't know how quick they're going to turn it around because the second one basically went immediately right into production. So
Right.
Denny didn't give an answer when someone directly asked him, hey, do you want to do another 3 years with the next one and just do no other projects? He's like, well, we did get the green light while I was finishing the first one, so that made sense. What's your next question? He's like, I'm not sure if I want to.
Well, because tying him down, because the vision that he's laid out, you kind of hope it was him.
I mean, theoretically, they're definitely doing a third one, and he's already writing it. I think
great.
supposedly he wants to take a break after the third one. That's
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because you also have to tie down some of the main characters to come back. And I literally last night in the movie theaters, Wonka was still playing when Dune was there.
Oh.
So you're like, Timothy is a busy boy. And you know, it's so funny because he's so slight. Like, he's just on a big build. And so, you know, up against like, you know, a Josh Brolin, or in the first one of my favorite characters, Jason Momoa's Duncan, Idaho, which is, when you go down the list of characters' names, you're like, where did Duncan, Idaho come from?
That is a funny name for this universe.
And my son goes, he's from Idaho. I'm like, I don't think Idaho was on anybody's radar.
It was written in 1965.
I mean, what are some of your favorite moments? Because we can recap it. Obviously, we highly recommend it. I will say there's obviously some real tense moments where I literally was sitting up in my chair like, oh, what's going to happen here? I absolutely love what they did with the riding of the sandworms. First of all, like, how are these efforts holding on to this thing? But it was so well done in sort of the speed, the intensity, holding on. And when he basically plants that foot and rises up, you're just like, yeah. So
I just went, in my chair with him. I'm like, yeah, you got it.
come on, dude.
Pull
And I
it to the
said-
right, to the right, to the right.
And it kind of goes back to said, like, you know, Timothée Chalamet, we don't think of him as like a big guy, like a Jason Momoa or anything like that. And yet he does carry this film, both the brooding, the emotional, internal, and he handles the external very well. The battles, the
Did you mean brooding?
brooding.
I think it's when bros brood.
Yeah.
That's what he did. There's a lot of broing in it.
Brooding out.
And also the other thing was the when Austin Butler and that whole Harkonian, basically gladiator battle. That was incredible. So, all right, what was some of your favorites?
I think my favorite moment was a moment that pulled me out of the movie, but it was so brief. And then I agree with both of you that it was like 85% of Christopher Walken's Walkenness was out. But the first thing he comes on screen with is Muad'Dib. I'm like, that's 100% him. That's 100% him. And I'm never going to be able to let that go how he just said Muad'Dib. All right.
no.
But that word should have the power to destroy things. So
Yeah.
I mean, overall, this movie's the arc of this movie. You get a lot more Zendaya. You
Yeah,
get a
just
whole
a little bit at the end of
Poor
one.
Zendaya, what the hell? Because that didn't happen in the 1980s one.
all I know.
Oh, wait, was that a spoiler?
She's still alive. Don't worry about that.
okay.
She's
It's
going to turn to drugs like Euphoria. Or not. Just kidding.
She lives on a drug island, basically. They're basically high all the time on
A drug
Spice.
planet, you mean?
What did I say? Drug island, drug planet. Like the spice basically can make you intoxicated the whole time you're there. But the Fremen become used
Well,
to it.
isn't that what turns everybody's eyes blue?
Yes. The Fremen's eyes distinctly are blue.
Catherine, did you only watch the one in the 80s and you haven't watched the new one?
I did watch the 80s one probably in the 80s, and then I watched part 1.
Apparently I'm not believing you. I'm sorry.
Well, I did watch part 1. Are you not believing that I watched part 1? I did.
Feel free to ask more questions that show you don't know what it was.
She's just clarifying. John, what was your favorite part, actor, element of Dune 2?
I don't know, but we have missed talking about Timothy's 2 other names because it was Usul, and then what we didn't clarify, right? So the Ben Gesserit, the thing that they were going for, Lisan al Gaib is the prophetical name for the Fremen and what's voice from the outer world or whatever. And then I can't remember how they said it because I didn't see it yesterday. But what was it? Kiwatsach Haderach? Remember, that was the name for kind of the Ben Gesserits, what they were trying to accomplish.
Whoa.
The Kizatz Haderach.
There you go.
Yeah. That which I don't remember from this one as well as I remember. What is it? Not Helen Hunt. Somebody Hunt in the first one was the very short Bene Gesserit nun that came in.
Oh,
You
my.
remember her? I'm the housekeeper. And you're like, damn, lady.
Wait a minute. I don't even think she's still alive.
No, she was like 60 when she was doing that one.
Oh, wait a minute.
Maybe she was signed up for the original.
Because she was in the movie, it was a Killing Fields. Hold on.
Oh, I know who you mean. Yeah, look her up.
It's not Helen Hunt. It's like Helen something or something. Ellen Hunt or something like that.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out right now.
We ready?
Yeah.
Linda Hunt.
Linda Hunt.
You were so close. Good
I have
job.
it mixed up with actually Helen Hunt, but
Yeah,
she was
Helen
not
Hunt.
in the original Dune. Although I'll take either one of them in the next Dune.
Yeah.
Oh, she's still alive.
Oh my goodness.
Wasn't she in like CSI forever or which one of those? One of those.
Okay,
shows.
so she's 78 years old. She is 4'9".
4'9". She's a little lady.
I would love the third movie to just have a couple originals from the original. Get Kyle MacLachlan back in there. Get Linda Hunt back in there. Get Patrick Stewart in it. Just throw him in
Yeah,
any
they're
role.
around.
It doesn't matter.
And I was wrong. It was not the Killing Fields. She won an Academy Award for the year of living dangerously.
Ooh,
Oh.
wow.
And
okay.
she actually played a man in that.
I remember that. Oh, was Sigourney Weaver in it? Is that the one? I can't
yes,
remember.
I think
yeah.
so.
Like there was something about a reporter. Okay, this is not useful. information, but
Stars Mel Gibson and Sigourney Weaver.
I will say that my favorite thing about this whole discussion is how good John is at saying all of the like names and stuff.
Only some of them.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they actually did develop both a language. I mean, they had a language expert come in to help with the film. And most of the names and places and all that in the original book are so creative. That's why, like, a Duncan, Idaho is like,
Where's that coming from?
right. But Paul and Jessica and Duke Leto those are more, pronounceable, understandable names. But then there really are things like Harkonian. Like,
I mean, I love all the deep lore. I love a
Arrakis.
religion, like a made-up religion. That's always fabulous.
it's all good. I will, because where you don't know we're going to get this Dune 3, I'm just going to say there was a television series,
Children of God?
Children of Dune.
Dune. There you go. Yeah.
That was actually the follow-up because they did just Dune, and then they did a second set that was Children of Dune.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, how much do I need to watch? Okay, so it was like in 2003. It's available on YouTube. So I might go into it because I'm like, what happens? Do they actually kind of lay it out?
I don't know. I mean, Children of Dune is a different book, and I haven't read it, so I don't know. But then in the other one with William Hurt, you get the original. That's the first book of Dune.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to investigate if that's even available.
Yeah. And I will say the Dune element, the Dune lore has been in our household since we were kids because our brother James is a big sci-fi fan, and for sure he read that, and it was always his way of getting out of chores. So it's like, I'm knee deep in Lord of the Rings. I'm knee deep in reading.
I'm up to my neck in sand reading this Dune book.
For sure. So I remember being like, what are you reading? So that's always been, an appeal in our household. So I love Dune 2. I highly recommend it. You do need to watch Dune 1 to understand what's happening.
I did watch it.
Catherine.
I did watch it.
Yeah.
I did watch it. And I will watch this. I don't know if I'll get to the theater just because that never seems to happen, which is why.
Oh my gosh, I
What?
totally forgot one more
What,
thing.
what?
You know how I always talk about the Tuesdays we screw up? We are notorious in my family for the deals on Tuesday.
We're right, because you do AMC stubs, which is like a deal thing, and it never goes properly.
We get the wrong time, we get the wrong movie. all that. So this time I'm like, I've got it handled because I have a gift card to the Regal Theater. I'm going to use our gift card. So then you can't do it through Fandango, and obviously we're not doing stubs, but I got it. So I go online, and I'm like, this is so weird. It's like my number on my gift card is too long. Oh, I can't. This is where we want to go. They want the reclined seats. Okay, it's fine. I'll do it, and I'll get to the box office a little early and be like, hi, let's give me a credit back. It's going to be fine. So I walk in, and he goes, yeah, this is a Regency, and that's a Regal gift card. I'm like, do we ever get it right? Do we ever get it right? So we could have gone to AMC Stubs and got our free popcorn, probably got the big phallic worm bucket. We could have done that, but I insisted on using the gift card for a theater that I don't even know where one of them are anymore.
Whoops, the wrong
There's
one.
always something, but it was well worth it because we got fully reclined, which I highly recommend for this film. Do not get the D box. Don't be shaken throughout the whole thing.
That seems like too much.
No, it's too much. And you kind of need fully reclined, very comfortable seats because it's like a 3-hour commitment for sure.
Well, I think on this one they pour sand on you.
Yeah.
They could. And there is something to be said on a very big screen to watch it. It's pretty amazing.
All
but it was
right.
weird because we sat the last row and there was a rail and there are subtitles for the language. So there's a couple times you had to go like, what?
I've reclined too much. I'm too relaxed in
So it's
this
a little-
theater for Denny's viewing. Oh, no.
Yeah. So that was a little obstacle, but we overcame it. So I loved it. Highly recommend it. It's in theaters now.
All right. Well, maybe I will go to the theater and see it, but I can't go with Eric because he already went.
No, you're going to see it at home. But this is going to be in the theaters a while, I think. It's doing very well.
One last thing on the popcorn, the special popcorn thing. I thought this was genius. When my husband got the popcorn thing, he got it without the popcorn in it. I mean, you still have to pay for the popcorn because the special bucket is like an upgrade, right, John?
This is correct. This is what happened. He went to the, concession stand and said, I want to buy the popcorn bucket. And they said, okay, but you have to get it with the popcorn. He said, but no, I don't want the popcorn. So they just gave it to him in the plastic wrapped. Here you go.
Do you think it's going to be worth something at some point? Like, what is his theory?
He for sure thought it was going to be worth something. He just, I think, wanted it as for the value of the joke of that he got it. But he was like, I can't even imagine how gross and dirty with the popcorn in it. And you're reaching in and there's all these little spinally fingers and they're getting butter all over them. So he was like, but mine is pristine. Like, okay.
Yeah, well, he's obviously using the bucket wrong. You take the two handles on the side and then you in your mouth. Like sand, like a sandworm.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay.
All right. Well, that's it for this Dune-focused episode
The
of What We're
stunning,
Watching.
epic sci-fi Dune 2 in theaters now.
Okay, so thank you for watching or listening, and please follow us on all of our social media at Podcast Watching, and that is Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. And then, of course, you can watch us on the Knack Entertainment YouTube channel. So thank you for joining us for What We're Watching.